Hey everybody, welcome to another video where I talk my ass off and you guys just sit there, look pretty, and chuckle through your nostrils. Because this is a transactional relationship, okay? I provide the shits and you provide the giggles. It's an even trade, don't you agree? You ever just be sitting somewhere, minding your own business, completely at peace with yourself, and then all of a sudden there is a freaking thought torpedo in the water and it hits you? And then all of a sudden you remember an ex. Toxic old flame, a situationship that just refused to be defined as anything more than good sex. The one that got away, the one you fumbled, that last one. That's the one that keeps you up at night. That's the type that makes you like all of those feels reels with that Billie Eilish song from the movie Barbie. You know what I'm talking about. That freaking song that can make you cry to almost anything. Today is gonna be very exciting because we are going to be talking about men. Ah, yes. Men. Today, I'm going to be talking about the top 5 most memorable men that I have tried dating ever since I moved to the US when I was 25. Specifically, I am going to go into some anonymous detail about their most notable traits, which ultimately made our connection unique. I'm also going to be sharing some crazy or incredibly cringe anecdotes. And lastly, I'm going to be answering the question, if we were to date again today, what would I do differently? Let's just say I don't really have a type. Never have, never will. And that fact alone makes for some pretty kooky stories. You'll want to stick around for this one. And in no particular order, first up we've got the silver fox. Our age gap was 11 years, if I remember correctly. I was 31 and he was 42. So yeah, pretty foxy. He was an absolute gentleman. He just exuded this aura of calm. I don't know if it came from his age, but he was just a really calm, cool, and collect guy. And he spoiled the fuck out of me. To this day, I still feel like he is one of the kindest, most patient men I've ever met in New York City. Especially considering we started dating barely a year after I was diagnosed bipolar. Now, this is not self-deprecation, I'm just stating facts. I'm bipolar and it does show. He was a divorcee from his first marriage, which is honestly no big deal. It doesn't mean anything. He was also a type 1 diabetic, which means he had to wear an insulin pump for most of his life. Again, something I honestly don't care about. He can't have sweets and I can't sleep. What a match made in heaven. Now, the fox is an unsung hero in my life because would you believe that this guy gladly paid for several sessions of talk therapy for me? Saying it out loud right now kind of makes me cringe because that means he really saw me struggling with my mental health, and that's not a pretty sight. He really stands out among the humans that I know because his concern for my mental health didn't just stop at saying comforting words. He was showing it through definitive actions. It really felt like he was investing in both my short-term and long-term health, which I feel like only a man in his 40s is able to make a decision on, because I feel like the older you get, the more capable you are of seeing the bigger picture of things. Despite all of this, he never made me feel like I was too much to handle. He said he just needed to learn how to. One time he told me that every night that he was over at my place, he would observe how many hours of sleep I actually got. If I didn't hit at least 7 hours of sleep, he knew to watch out for some symptoms the next day. That early on in my mental health journey, I wasn't experienced enough, or I wasn't self-aware enough to observe myself. A lot of the time, it's very beneficial to have a partner who is just as educated on your chronic illness as you are, because again, they get to observe you and then they get to stay on top of it for you. And I know that sounds like a lot of responsibility, but honestly, these things become second nature. So for example, let's say I didn't get enough sleep. So the next day, if I let out a sigh, because if you really think about it, humans don't just sigh out of nowhere. It is a sound that always has a sort of either frustrated or exhausted feeling. So yeah, let's say I let out a sigh he would look over, notice if I had anything else in my body that was clenched up. Let's say if I had a clenched jaw, if my shoulders were kind of like raised a little bit, or if he starts to notice that I am speaking too fast, he would just candidly ask me like, hey, are you okay? What's on your mind? And that just makes me think, you know, maybe we're not as good at masking as we would like to believe. One of my absolute favorite memories of this guy was when I just landed at the airport from visiting my grandmother in California. It was a stressful visit due to personal reasons, but he picked me up from the airport. That's actually the bare minimum if you have a partner. But I saw him standing there with flowers. And then when we arrived at my apartment, he went straight to the kitchen. This man opened a tote bag, started stocking my fridge and pantry with some essential groceries, just because he knew I was tired from travel and a little depressy. Like, what? Who is this angel? One very average afternoon when I was hanging out with the fox over at his place, we were standing in the kitchen when a package arrived. So I watched him rip the box open, and out comes a white book with blue lettering on the cover. It was a workbook on how to understand and care for a loved one with bipolar disorder. I didn't know what to say. For the first time, I felt like I wasn't a monster. Because that's what bipolar disorder makes you feel. There's a lot of regret that just swirls in your mind forever when you have bipolar disorder. And it makes you think that people who run away from you have the right idea. But lo and behold, here's this guy that is not only not running away, but is actually running towards me with a book. So I walked over to him and hugged him so freaking tight while pretending not to cry. Now, what would I do differently if the fox and I dated again? I would definitely be more patient, and not just actively patient. I feel like I would be passively patient as well. And when I say passively patient, I'm referring to just a general increased capacity to be patient. But yeah, I would definitely be more patient with him and open-minded, especially because we literally come from different generations. I'm a millennial and he's literally Gen X. He is in the generation of my parents. Being open-minded is a two-way street between the younger and the older. Both parties would need to meet in the middle consistently. And hopefully the chemistry fosters a natural desire to keep learning from each other. And I would definitely try harder to really show how much I appreciate everything that he does for me. I was the one that broke up with him. Eventually, my doctor decided to add an antidepressant into my medication regimen, and the initial adjustment made me feel numb. I literally couldn't feel anything, much less feel anything for him. So I set him free. Fly, fly. Go be with somebody who is more stable and actually ready for another long-term relationship, because I sure as hell was not. I needed to refocus on getting myself right. All right, number 2, we've got the coworker. I met this gentle guy at my first office job. I was in marketing as a copywriter and he managed the software development. So see, that's pretty kosher. Because if you are gonna have an office romance, the least that you can make sure of is not your boss, different department. There you go. And a lot of you might judge me because I shat where I ate, but my God, working in that office was terribly boring. So whenever I would get a coffee, I would intentionally strut by his office in my cute little outfits. Sometimes I had to talk to somebody on his team. So what I would do is I would lean over their cubicle so I can poke it out a little bit. And then if I have an opportunity to laugh, I would laugh and like casually flip my hair a little bit, all the while pretending that I can't see him looking. Think what you want. It was a fun time. We had a lot in common. First thing that comes to mind is we both loved eating out. And he always paid. He cracked me up all the time. He was freaking hilarious. He wasn't a texter or a caller, but he knew the value of quality time. And he gave me a lot of quality time. Now I have 3 core memories of this man. First, he did this thing that I found just unexplainably sweet and very sensual. We would step out for a smoke, and instead of letting me take a cigarette from the box, he would take one out, put it in his mouth, light it, and then hand it over to me. That was my cigarette. Then he would light his. He did this every single time. Like what? Like what? Like what? I didn't need an explanation for it. It was just a sexy thing that I just wanted him to keep doing because literally no one else in the world would do that. And as strange as it sounds, because it revolves around a disgusting habit, it was a regular act of service for me. And that's one of my love languages. Second, I did not approve of this. One night, I took my dog out for her last walk before bedtime, probably midnight. I spot a very familiar blue car. And I'm just like, no way. Well, why are you out here? Well, I walk over to the driver's side and this man was asleep. This man parked his car in front of my apartment building and he was asleep. He wakes up so slowly. He looks so lost. And then he sees me at the window and then he opens the door. In jumps my dog, of course, just thinking that we're off to travel. She's just so anxious that we're gonna travel every time I come near a car. And then I smell it on him. He's wasted. This man drove his car wasted and then for some reason wound up at my place. Why are you here? How did you end up here? And before he passed out, he just said, I was just thinking of you. I still do not approve of drunk driving. That is a horrible thing to do. But okay, you were thinking of me and then you wound up at my place. Okay. That's kind of sweet. Lastly, this man was blessed. If you catch my drift. And sometimes that's half of the battle. The motion in the ocean was good as well. However, the voyages were always cut short. Again, if you catch my drift. Would. Now, before you hand me a yellow card for talking about this, I would like to clarify that him and I were already dating for several months when I found the courage in my heart of hearts to talk to him about it with the purest of intentions of just wanting the freaking orgasm already. I politely and gently asked him if he could work on it because I wanted us to be closer. I actually encouraged him to watch more porn, to practice edging. And I reassured him that if at any time in the bedroom he needed to pause to kind of reel it in, that it wouldn't be frowned upon in the bedroom. Honestly, we both handled that conversation really well. And it even brought us closer. That's the magic of good communication. People, if your partner has something they can reasonably work on to give you more satisfaction in the bedroom, have a respectful talk at the right time. Ego has no place here. Now, what would I do differently if we were to date again today? I would definitely be more upfront about needing more consistent phone communication. I guess I've done enough self-reflection to now be very much aware of my abandonment issues or anxious attachment style. So a lot of my effort in this game of love goes into overthinking when I should text and when I should reply, because to me, always having to reach out first. Like, I have no problem reaching out first, but there have definitely been times where I was always the one reaching out, which just doesn't make you feel good. If anything, during the initial phase of dating, men need to actually be just meeting you just a little bit past halfway. Just a little bit past halfway. Say I'm sexist and an annoying feminist about that, but I think that's very reasonable to expect and ask for. I really don't need a long back and forth text war every day. But my God, is it too much to ask for to know if I cross your mind at all? Like, send me memes, send me music. You can send me a picture of your lunch and already that's gonna give me butterflies because I'm gonna feel like you're allowing me to be a part of an otherwise boring day. Anything but silence goes a long way. And I'm sorry if I sound a little bit irritated talking about this. After years of settling for minimal, inconsistent texts from, well, goddamn, almost look, quiet, Viber. All right, where was I? So yeah, now that I think about it, I received minimal, inconsistent phone communication from almost every guy that I tried dating. Like, what? What? Like, aside from COVID, is there like some sort of new virus that latches itself onto circumcised penises and makes men just leave women on red? Like, yeah, bitch, believe it. If he wanted to, he would. He could literally be the busiest CFO in Manhattan running a $1 billion company. But let's be real, people. It literally takes 2 minutes to send a text. For example, damn, I've got a really busy couple of days ahead. If I'm not replying, I'll try to get a hold of you after work or first thing tomorrow morning. Marry me? Put a baby in me, maybe? And coming in at number 3, which absolutely means nothing, is the mama's boy. Our little meet cute happened in the club. The usual magnetic shit happened, you know? 2 people staring at each other from across the room, lights flashing, music blaring, bodies just grinding all over each other around you. Girl smiles shyly, boy raises his eyebrows and a glass of whiskey, and just when you least expect it, the boy's younger brother comes over and gets your number for himself. Now, I had no idea that they were even related. I saw them casually talking to each other, so it struck me as, oh no, they're friends. But I'm not gonna pretend that I wasn't disappointed that it wasn't the older brother that approached me for my number. But because even though they're both hot, the older brother was so much hotter. But the next day, the younger brother texts me. We chit-chat for a little bit just to establish a connection, and then out of fucking nowhere, he goes, hey, it was actually my older brother that wanted your number. I mean, I'd like to take you out, but if you're more interested in him, it's fine. And I'm just like, what? The honesty, the candor is off the charts. Apparently what went down was the older one saw the younger one asking for my number. So when they were driving home, older brother said, you know what? I think she was more interested in me. And then the younger brother goes, we'll have to ask her tomorrow. Truly, it's very nice to feel like a piece of meat that an alpha and a beta are fighting over. All right, let's get to know the mama's boy a little deeper. Before I start, I'm gonna lead with, he was hot. Albanian, chemical engineer, chivalrous. Like he literally expressed a degree of annoyance when I wouldn't stop opening doors for myself. Nice car, great hair, chiseled features all over. Like he looked like a Marvel action figure, okay? It was a lot to take in. We had really good banter, which I loved, and when we would hold hands, it felt really natural. And he was actually a decent phone communicator. But there was this one thing, one teeny tiny detail that made dating him, even casually, very complicated. Allow me to elaborate. Not that I ever need anyone's permission to keep yapping, but I will go on. The dates he took me on were actually quite perfect. And aside from really enjoying each other's company, the sex was great. I am getting flashbacks over here. 1 second. Now what's the catch, you ask? Because there's always a catch, especially if the sex is phenomenal. Every night, after a beautiful date, we would drive to a hotel. Don't react just yet. We would drive to a hotel. He would use his Hilton discount card. I honestly don't know why he has one, but is it like a family benefit where someone in his family works at Hilton and therefore everyone gets a discount card? Or another theory, maybe he was lying that he was a chemical engineer and the truth is he's actually a front desk receptionist at a hotel? A highly possible theory, but I don't freaking care anymore. So, said high caliber sex would be had, we would fall asleep, and off he goes before sunrise. Every time. It's like a vampire. He wasn't afraid to explain why though, but I would have preferred if he was a vampire compared to this explanation. Him and his brother still live with their parents, which, to be honest, isn't a big deal to me. Not a deal breaker. If you actually think about it, it is one of the wiser decisions a single person could make because it just allows you to save more money, and then by the time you're ready to actually leave and possibly pursue a long-term relationship and starting a family of your own, then you got a fat savings because paying rent sucks. All right, I went off on another tangent, so let's just go back. And he said he doesn't like bringing women home who are not his girlfriend because he doesn't want to disrespect his mother. Okay. I guess I sort of understood where he was coming from. Did I? What made it even weirder, every morning after, he would come back to the hotel to pick me up and then we go straight to brunch. Like, what? What is this routine? Now, what would I do if the mama's boy and I were to date again? It's been 8 years. I think it's pretty reasonable for me to expect that he no longer lives with his parents, right? Bro, I'm gonna give you the benefit of the doubt and really believe that you are a chemical engineer. So, Why not use the money that you are earning as a chemical engineer to actually get your ass out of your parents' house so you can actually have grown-up sex in your own bed? Where is all that moolah going, huh? Where, honey? Where is all that moolah going to? But enough hate. I'm gonna say it. I actually fumbled this one. Not in a major way, but in a stupid way. Stupid. Stupid. Idiota. Based off of how he was talking to me regularly, sweetly. We were going on dates multiple times a week. The hotel shit. And then the next day, the brunch shit. It just felt like we were spending so much time together and talking to each other a lot that it became so easy to feel comfortable and familiar with each other. Back then, I would still very much be anxiously attached to anyone that would show me attention. Bitch, you can't blame me for suddenly feeling some type of way about this guy. Like, he was doing all these cutesy boyfriend things. Like, his hand would always be resting on my thigh when he was driving. Then he would just like randomly take my hand and kiss the back of my hand. That cute and shit while driving. He would give me forehead kisses. Come on. I've had entire full-blown relationships where I didn't even get a single forehead kiss. Do you know how special a forehead kiss is? Like, damn, this has gone from getting flashbacks to getting f***ing heated because I was 25. I wasn't completely aware of the very nuanced rules of 21st century dating in the United States of America. So one night we were texting each other while we were at separate parties. He was drunk, I was drunk, so we were both drunk texting each other. And at some point, I think I told him to have a safe drive, and drunk me decided to include the word babe. Babe. No, I didn't suddenly start talking about the pig. I lapsed into a term of endearment, which is apparently so much worse. I know. An unrequited babe. Are you cringing? Because I'm cringing. Like I'm dying. In fact, I've fully soiled myself just now. That was the last time that it felt nice between us. It got awkward. We didn't go on any more dates after that, and then it just fizzled out. Exactly why? I will never know, but I'm gonna assume it's because of babe. But trust that I actually learned 3 very valuable lessons about American dating. First, Americans are terrified of labels, and that includes babe. Second, regularly talking to someone doesn't mean jack shit. And number 3, this is very difficult to override if you're constantly swimming in oxytocin. Having great sex, like godlike levels, that's not courtship. That ain't love either. My fellow Filipinos, if you know, you know. Trust me, usong-uso pa rin ang harana. If that's your standard, keep it. Coming in at number 4 is the friend turned lover. Now, this situation to me was actually very ideal. Growing up and having experienced different types of dating, different types of guys, you will really notice the difference if 2 people started out as friends. A platonic relationship is truly one of the strongest foundations in any romantic relationship. There's mutual respect. There is a natural curiosity to learn about that person. Now that I'm in my mid-30s, I struggle to keep a platonic relationship with straight male friends. Maybe I'm also at fault because I have a tendency to feel better when I am objectifying myself. And that is not a very pretty coping mechanism nor source of validation to have. Again, went off on a tangent. Let's go back. I was 26 and he was 34. What's with all these age gaps though? Maybe that's what's wrong. Maybe I should start dating younger. Maybe it'll be easier to get what I want. Okay, back to the subject. So this guy and I, we met at my first job when I was still living in Arizona. And he was just this comforting presence that you just know that no matter what happens on shift, he absolutely has your back. When you work in the restaurant or bar scene, people who make moves, bust their ass, and go the extra mile for coworkers, that is super f***ing sexy. Not only do you command respect among your peers because you're a hard worker, it also shows that you're a real one because putting in pride and effort working in that industry can be one of the most thankless things you can put yourself through. So we were friends for at least 2 years before anything really happened between us. So let's dive in a little deeper and get to know him. Now, right off the bat, I want to say that he does not look like a Marvel action figure. However, the sex was still phenomenal. I had the pleasure of learning how generous he is of his time because he was totally down to spend an entire day helping me move into a new apartment. He literally was just like, I would have done this for you again. So eventually, I just started inviting him over to hang. And then one thing led to another. If there is attraction between two people, you can't just put a movie on, have them sit on a couch, and expect that nothing will happen. So before we even realized what was happening, he was bringing me to his gigs as his date, pretty much. And more people started to notice that something was going on. Most people were a little surprised, but they were happy for us. And then the rest were your garden variety haters. The moment they found out, they felt that it was their business to give words of caution to this guy. We all belonged to a lot of interconnected social circles. Like we both knew deep down that there was gonna be drama at some point. At the end of the day, humans are just so easily bored with their own lives. It's ridiculous. So yeah, initially it was disappointing to find out what people's true opinions were of us as individuals or together. I feel like expressing your opinion about a newly formed relationship only ever comes from two things. It's either you're jealous or you're extremely concerned. If you're jealous or insecure, then that's your problem. But if it's coming from a place of like, hey, I just don't want either of you to get hurt, okay, I accept that. But honestly, if someone feels like they have something valuable to bring to the table with regard to discussing your relationship, you just have to say, shh. No, shh. Just chill. Nothing's happened yet. It's not your problem. It's not your problem. Let me worry about it. My favorite memory of this guy was when I asked him if he could pass by the store. Because for a reason I cannot recall right now, I needed an avocado. Red and blue lights flashing in the background. Apparently, I urgently needed an avocado that day. Can't wait. When he arrived, he gave me the bag and I'm just like, why would you get a plastic bag for one avocado? Didn't say it out loud, but he beat me to it. He said, I got you 2 avocados. This one is ready and this one you can have for another day. Like, what? What? Maybe to him, it meant nothing. Maybe it was just simple, sensible buyer's logic, a might as well moment, if you will. But it really meant the world to me. I put the avocados on the table and ran up to him and hugged him so tight. And I guess, looking back, I think that was the moment that I caught feelings for this guy. 2 avocados. Who would have thunk? Key to my heart. Now, let's answer the question, if we were to date again today, what would I do differently? I would say sorry. Yeah, the harsh truth is I absolutely fumbled this one. Again, he was an absolute sweetheart, great friend, loved our conversations. Everything was good. I was happy, TBH. But it was around this time that I started to experience a lot of difficulty concentrating and sitting still. When it started to affect my performance at work, I saw a doctor and he immediately diagnosed me with ADHD. So great. And then he put me on extended release Adderall. Yeah, you know, if we can possibly, let's just consider it for a little bit. If we can possibly not give the bipolar girl blue meth, I think that would be great. That would be great. But alas, such is life for neurodivergents. Without a correct diagnosis, we can't exactly start getting better. Whether treatment involves medication, psychotherapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, or something as simple as talk therapy. Even though he wasn't there all the time to see the effects Adderall had on me when I was actually on it during the weekdays, during the weekends, when we both actually had the time to see each other because I was already working somewhere else, I was just a completely different person. I was either very depressed and tired, or I was tired and very irritable. It's called the Adderall crash. And of course, in somebody who is bipolar, Adderall can make you go super high, but the moment it wears off, you will then go super low. I was not a pleasant person off it. So me not having enough self-awareness to tie everything together, I ended up convincing myself that this is just who I am now. I was very disappointed in who I suddenly became. I didn't have any explanation for it. This was 2019. So I broke up with him. I didn't know why, but I didn't feel like myself at all. I couldn't connect with him as deeply as I used to. We would end up arguing or fighting, which was completely not us. And then at some point, I completely lost myself. And I was just so tired of having to deal with the crashes, the highs and the lows, that I didn't want anyone near me. I just wanted to be a sad dog and lick my wounds in a corner by myself. Because of medication, another one bit the dust. Such is the life of a neurodivergent. And coming in at number 5 to end the night is the Virgin. This one's a little bit more complex because technically we were not dating, but this connection was so unique that it's really worth discussing. And trust me, he's not special to me because he was a virgin. He's special to me because I felt like he had a mental list of things he wanted to experience first with me. Like, okay, sounds fun. You're gonna drag me along on your weird first time adventures. But why me? Why make me your sexual guinea pig? So this guy, we would text about maybe 3 to 4 times a week. Very short, very platonic text conversations. So after a few months that I've gotten more comfortable talking to him, and I guess him talking to me, I started inviting him over just to hang, watch TV, have a beer, whatever. I literally just wanted to see if he and I could be friends. But I guess we all know how that pans out for Anna, don't we? All right, let's cut this boy open and take a look inside, shall we? First thing you notice about this guy is his beautiful, thick, long brown hair, like a fucking horse, with a nice smile to match. Just like every other guy that we've talked about, he was also an absolute gentleman and a softie. Very intelligent, well-spoken, but also soft-spoken, which was a nice combo. The first few times that he came over to hang out, they all felt safe. Like he wasn't going to make a move on me or gradually steer the conversation towards a more sensual vibe, which is what most guys end up doing in front of me. I mean, if they don't do it, I'm gonna end up doing it because I really do realize that if I do not sexually objectify myself, I don't feel like the shit. That's my problem. That's my problem. I'm working on it, but I'm aware of it, so that's a start. All of these tangents. Again, let's reel it back. If he never told me that he was inexperienced, I wouldn't have assumed that he was. Because these days, I just automatically assume that most people who are at least in their mid-20s have had sex. Like, am I wrong to assume that? Come on. If 18-year-olds are already getting excited about getting tattooed, like, trust me, they're excited to have sex. I have 2 pretty kooky stories with this guy. We were hanging out. We were probably like a third into some movie, and I started to pack a bomb. And of course, like a gracious host, I packed it and then handed it over to him so that he could take the first hit. And I didn't know exactly if he smoked weed, so I had to ask. I was like, I'm sorry, do you not? And he was like, no, I do. He said, I've smoked several times before. And I'm like, when was the last time that you smoked? But you know, I can't really remember. I think I was still with my ex when I last smoked. Yeah, when was that? Over a year ago? And I looked at the big piece of glass he was holding in his hands, and I'm like, okay. Goodbye. Later, after the movie, as I was like saying goodbye and like closing the door at the same time, he turns around and comes back and stands in the doorway, looks me dead in the eye, and I was just like, whoa, what's up, dude? Did you forget anything? And he just straight up said, no. Can I kiss you? Before this moment, I already knew he was a virgin. He's a very honest man. So knowing that this could be a bigger deal to him than it is to me, I really thought about it, but I figured that I don't really have anything to lose and this guy has everything to gain. So I stepped aside, gestured for him to come back in, and then we made out. Guys, when I tell you that it was one of the worst makeout experiences I have ever had, I mean that it was only a hair shy of the actual worst makeout experience that I have ever had, which was with someone who treated my mouth like a f***ing bouncy castle for his tongue. All over. I needed a freaking towel after. Ugh. kid shit. And of course, the ultimate cherry on top to make the entire night even more sensual, he texted me when he got home. It was my first time hitting a bong. I was so high that I was afraid I was going to piss myself. End of text. And to that I said, you're welcome. Okay, so the second most notable memory that I have with this guy was actually quite precious. But it was still pretty weird, don't get me wrong. It was just a nice date idea, but once again tainted with this guy's brutal honesty about everything. He mentions that he has tickets to one of his favorite band's show. He asked me to come with him. And of course, I said yes. Don't know the band, but I love live music. So clearly, the show starts and then maybe halfway through the show, he reaches over and holds my hand. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I sort of expected him to do this, but it took me a couple minutes for me to get over it and like just relax for the rest of the show. After the show, as I was turning in for the night, this boy texts me. Oh God, brace yourselves for this. Oh God, okay. Bracing myself. Thank you for letting me take you out. I had a great night. But I have to be honest, bro. What else are we trying to unpack here? This is not a confessional, and I am most certainly not a priest. I am the nun. Here we go. Brace yourselves. Can we just brace yourselves? Hang on to something. Hang on to something. If you're standing up, sit down. Right now. Holding a glass of water, anything breakable, set it down right now. Here we go. I haven't gotten over my ex. It's been a really long time since we broke up. The band we saw was our old favorite, but it was nice to see it with you. It felt like I was with her. You know when you really want to throw up, but your gag reflex is just dead? Like you're just standing over a toilet, dry heaving. Guys, nga. Hindi ko kinaya. I read the message once, twice, 3 times, just to make sure that I wasn't imagining things. I was overcome with so much cringe that I immediately took my phone, threw it into a dumpster fire with the clothes I wore to the show. Then I leapt off a 17-story building because there is no way in hell that I will ever forget that message plus that makeout session. Like, what? Namimilipit din ba kayo? Kasi ako, oo. Parang lumiit ako. Miss, isang lobotomy to go? Willing to wait. Dito lang ako. Now let's answer the question. What would I do differently if the virgin and I were to date today? We wouldn't. Like, aside from the things that I talked about, there wasn't really anything wrong with him. To the point where I would actually maybe set him up with a friend. But damn, with me, it just got way too weird, way too fast. Listen, we all appreciate honesty. Honesty is very difficult to come by these days. But some things, bro, lock it up, throw away the key. It doesn't deserve to see the light of day again. So yeah, I don't f***ing care if you still have some feelings for your ex. But please, do not tell me that I somehow simulated a night with your ex. I can't. I just can't. Can I? No, I can't. Why, oh why, did I decide to unearth these memories? Like, and that concludes this video. I hope you guys felt as much cringe as I did. Do remember to leave me some love down below. You know the drill, it's the usual trifecta. Like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Because it's like handing out compliments. It doesn't cost you anything, but it makes me feel really good. Do you have a unique dating experience? Or are you experiencing something currently that you would love some advice on? If you send me a DM, I'm gonna see if I can give you some advice. Or you can do something better. You can spill in the comment section down below and everyone can just gather around the fires of hell with you and talk a little smack. Because let's face it, we were all cringe once. And guess what? I'm still hella cringe. But the thing is, I really don't care because I love myself unconditionally on my good and bad days, which is what I sincerely hope you guys will get on for the rest of 2024. Thank you for hanging with me, guys, and I'm gonna see you guys in the next video. Bye!